What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Rails of Mass. Today we're doing another edition of our Forgotten Railroad. This adventure begins right here at the Charles River. To the left we have the town of Dover, and to the right we have the town of Needham. This bridge last saw a train in June of 2006, and since then its condition has gone downhill rather quickly. At one time there were hopes to make this bridge part of the Bay Colony Rail Trail, but opposition from the town of Dover, as well as a fire later on the bridge, killed those dreams. Looking at the left side of the bridge deck, evidence of the fire is still clearly visible. Now, beginning here at the Charles River, we're going to make our way back east towards Needham Junction. And in the same fashion as last time, we're going to be stopping, taking some looks back in time, and acknowledging a few of the artifacts we find along the way. Now, before we depart east back towards Needham Junction, I'm just going to go up for a quick bird's eye view here. It's one of the pros of rail fanning with the drone. You get to see things from a different perspective that other people just can't see. As we leave the bridge, we don't get far before we come across our first artifact here. An old whistle post to warn of the upcoming Fisher Street crossing. A long time since the railroad made these out of concrete. Now, unlike our last episode, the right-of-way here isn't very overgrown, and we can get a lot more speed on the drone here. Flying in tight spaces like this is honestly the most fun part of making these videos. Now, as we approach the Fisher Street crossing, we're going to take a brief pause and take a look back in time at the way it was. Now, before we continue into the former Charles River Station site area, we're going to take one more step back in time. Now proceeding east, we cross Fisher Street and enter the site of the former Charles River Station. Although this area seems very clear and clean today, that wasn't the case before the rail trail was here. Apparently, it also was not the case 40 years ago either. The last passenger train stopped here back in 1967, when the MBTA terminated service between Needham Junction and Millis. Now, as we approach the former Charles River Street grade crossing, we're going to stop and just take a quick look at a couple things. Now, I can understand how it could be a little bit hard to imagine the way it was based on what's left here, but 115 years ago, this spot looked very different. Here at the crossing, we also find another reminder of the way it was. An old relay case, part of the original crossing protection here. Also of note here, pieces of rail reused to hold the crossbucks which now say rail trail crossing instead of railroad crossing. At one point, almost every crossing on this line had crossing protection. This was the last public grade crossing before Needham Junction, but we're only going to make it a matter of feet here before we stop for another look back in time. Although it's always a shame to see a railroad line ripped up, it's very nice to see how inviting and open the area has become. Although the track here is gone, and there is not a need for service in this area, if the need should ever return in the future, the possibility will always be there. Even though this line is currently home to the Bay Colony Rail Trail, it is still MBTA property, and is leased by the MBTA to the Bay Colony Rail Trail for the low price of $1. Now, I always find it interesting to think about the way things could have been. What if the line held on for just a few more years? If it became part of Mass Coastal? Could you imagine Mass Coastal serving National Lumber? Or Coca-Cola? Now, I'll acknowledge it's a bit out of the realm of possibility now, but it's still interesting to think about. Now, coming around the corner here, we're going to pull off to the side a second and let this gentleman pass. I didn't get any complaints, but I'm sure if I have a camera flying in someone's face at 30 miles an hour, they might be a little concerned. This also gave me a little opportunity to catch back up with the drone. Coming up to the clearing here, we approach the former farm crossing. This is one of the few private crossings on this line. That small gap in the fence we just passed marked where the crossing once was. Now, not nearly as hard as last time, but flying through here really felt like nothing short of an Olympic sport. I know a lot of you watching this are probably just waiting for me to fly into one of these branches, but I'm sorry, not in this video. During the final years that the track was still in place here, this was one of the most overgrown sections of the line, and was honestly barely walkable at some points in the summer. Making our way back towards Needham Junction, you see the landscape starts to change a bit here. The rock cuts become a lot more common, and you can tell that it was no easy feat getting the railroad through here. If you look on the left here, you'll see a sign and a path. That's the return to High Rock Street for the Bay Colony Rail Trail. And now that we've caught back up with the drone here, we're making our way around the final corner. Although this video and the trail are going to end at Needham Junction, the original plans for the Bay Colony Rail Trail were to continue all the way to Newton, with rail with trail through Needham Center and Needham Heights. To my knowledge, no new information has come to light on this subject, but if anything does materialize, we'll be sure to revisit this in the future. And now we've arrived back at Needham Junction. Thank you for joining me in this edition of Our Forgotten Railroad. If you liked the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, and make sure you join us next time for our next adventure as we continue down the line into Dover and beyond. From the Rails and Mast, I'm your host Steve Hurley. Thanks for watching.